Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Yvonne and you are on Ginger Chick Rehab. Well, I love to take secondhand finds and make them over and share the process with you all of what I do to these items. So today's video, I am sharing this piece behind me. Yes, would you like to see what it started and the process of how I created this look? Since we've been clearing out our workshop, going to take items to the new house, there's hidden treasures underneath here, like this little 3-drawer cutie that I had picked up at a garage sale last summer. And I'm like, oh yeah, that got tucked and hidden. And it's just a nice size piece. Now somebody has added feet to it to rise it up and gave it a new bottom. So it should be an easy transformation. Well, I did say easy transformation, right? Okay, so now I have to inspect my piece just because, you think just because it has a new feed and new bottom on it that everything is fixed. Yeah, no. So we have to start right off the bat by fixing this. So this totally, on both sides, needs to be re-glued, so I'm just going to use some of the Titebond Quick and Thick, and then it's a nice tight fit, so I'm just going to hammer it down in place. I don't think I should need any clamps, and while I'm working on the piece, it should dry. So I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to remove all the knobs. The knobs are just wood, so I'll probably find something in our stash to replace them with, but for right now I need to get them removed. I actually just threw on a gripper glove that I usually use for work, but this knob kept spinning on me, so I'm like, what can I do to get it to hold still instead of hurting my hand? So I just threw a glove on. So now my next step is to assess all the holes. So where they put that piece of plywood on the bottom, you can see all the nail holes. So I'm going to go through, and then you can see some wear marks from whatever on the bottom that I'm just going to go ahead and fill in with some spackle. And then when my wood filler, it was actually wood filler, not spackle, but is dry, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to start to sand this. You can see that it's super shiny, so I need to give this a good scuff sanding. I'm going to be painting this piece, so I don't need to take it all the way down to the raw wood. I just really need to get any boo-boos taken care of, any scrapes, anything like that, and then just get that shiny so the paint has something to grab onto. Looks as if this has been re-glued before, and then it has some paint splatters, so I'm going to take the time and just hopefully that will sand nice and clean. So much for the easy. Yes, there's some pieces where I was sanding that are cracked. They're still attached, but they're cracked. So I'm going to go ahead and use some of the STARBOND CA glue. This is a great glue, so when you're in the process of working something, it'll fill in that gap, it'll fill in that crack. You won't really see it, but it'll bond those two pieces together so that they don't accidentally get broken. Little bit of the glue in the crack. I'm going to go ahead and build it up, and then you spray it with the Activator spray. In 15 seconds it is dry, and then once it's dry I can go in and sand it, and it should be nice and smooth. You still see the crack, but when you go to fill it, you'll know that the two pieces are bonded back together. There's not that little dip in there from where it was cracked, and it should be a nice strong bond with this type of wood. And then we have some looseness here, so I'm just going to get the brad nailer and nail that back down so it's nice and tight. I'm sanding the inside, getting rid of that paint that was left over from something. One of the rungs is loose, so I'm just going to take my brad nailer, and hopefully I chose the right size brad that it won't go all the way through, just enough to attach it back down. One time, this must have been a painted piece and somebody sanded all that paint off. So or they reused the back. Who am I to know? So I'm just going to go ahead and take the time to clean up that back because I like my backs to be just as pretty as my front. So I'll remove that paint. I have everything taped off to prevent any drips or runs. I'm just cleaning the piece off with some Dawn dish soap and some hot water. And if you're wondering why I tape off first, is because I'm always like, I want to get things done. So if I have it wet, the tape might not necessarily stick to the piece. So I always go ahead and do that first. Oh, now it's time to get to the good stuff. And I am going to be using Iron Orchid's May Roses transfer on this piece. Now, the piece is small, and this is a big transfer if you put all 4 pieces. But the nice thing about a transfer is you don't have to use all of it all at one time. This is such a neutral. I'm going to go ahead and use Sweet Pickins Milk Paint and Pantry Door. This will be my first furniture piece using the milk paint, so I'm quite curious on how this is going to work. So it is equal parts of the powder to equal parts of the water, and then you just stir it for 2 minutes, let it sit up for another minute or so until it reaches a cake, or actually a pancake batter consistency. Now, this is the first time I mixed up this type of quantity of paint, so we'll see how it works. So milk paint is watery, it's runny, it's kind of made to run and crackle and all that yumminess. Now, I didn't primer or anything on this piece. I'm just painting on it because I want it to kind of have that old, worn, chippy look. So I don't want it to completely adhere here and there. So just a personal preference. I know they have a bonding agent if you really want it to stick, but that wasn't the look I was going for. And I do notice that I have some clumps of the mixture. So I might try, I have a little mixing tool that I bought at a garage sale that I might try for the next batch. Because maybe that was too much of a mixture, just sharing my little thought process of how I'm using it. So just a gentle hand of brushing it on. Right away, you can see some reaction to the wood filler. Do you see how that is turning purple? But sometimes you just let it do what it's going to do and deal with it after it is dry. So that's the only thing I can think of, unless the original person that had this is something else. But it looks like every area where I stuck wood filler. Um, I don't know. It's the, the pink that turns, so you can tell that it's dry. I don't know. If I would have known that it was going to do that, I would have put some shellac on those areas, but I didn't. I didn't have a clue. So after it dries, yep, I'm going to go back in with some shellac and do a couple coats to see if I can get that to cover up with another coat. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up another batch using the same that I had, added a little bit more to what was left over. And this is just a hand mixing tool. Like I said, I think I spent $5 at a garage sale for it. So hopefully I can get that not to have any clumps. The fun thing about the milk paint, I notice even when I'm just stirring it with the popsicle stick, is the bubbles. It makes bubbles. It aerates it. So yeah, so the hard thing about when I was doing the smaller batches for smaller projects is like you need to get it, so the mixing tool would be down there. So I just would really beat it a lot with the popsicle stick. But this seems to be working, and I seem to be getting more of the clumps out. And I do have another reason why I love using milk paint. It dries so fast. The dry powder, oh my gosh. So I can flip a piece of furniture in a day, not waiting for all that dry time. But so now I'm just taking some 220 sandpaper. I think I did actually change it up to 150 because it is good and on there, and I wanted to see more of the underlying wood underneath. So, and the thing, it's when you sand it, it is so smooth to the touch. So yes, it wasn't really like distressing the way I wanted it to. All depends on what the look that you're going for. So I did up my sandpaper to a little bit stronger. I don't want a ton off the drawers because that's where I'm going to be sticking the transfers, but it all depends on what look you're going for. So here and there, I still see a little bit of that lavender purple hue, but it's going to be that perfectly imperfect. I'm not going to stress myself out by keep trying to cover it up. It is just going to be a feature added on to this piece. That's just how it's going to be, because you can stress yourself out trying to fix it and then just make a hot mess out of it. So I did 3 coats of shellac, painted over it, so it is what it is going to be. I mean, I could have done 5 and 6 and then kept adding paint, but it's just going to be that slightly imperfection, and it's just going to look like an older piece. I mean, there was some chippiness here and there, not a ton by any means. So I'm really going in with my sandpaper and trying to give it some distressing. Every piece is going to react different. This was raw wood. Would it have done differently if I had done a primer underneath? But I didn't want to see that primer color when I was distressing it. I wanted to see that natural wood, like the paint had wore off over time. See, I need to lay this on its back so I can work with what I have. And the drawers do push down. I believe this is a handmade, homemade piece. So now I'm just going to go ahead and pick out what one of the flowers I want. I just kind of want to do some flowers off to the side. Like I said, this isn't a huge piece and I don't want to overpower it with too many flowers. So I'm just taking a gander on what floral I want to use, and do I want to use the wording. I think just the way that the wording is on this piece and how I'm going to do the flowers, I don't think I'm going to do the wording. I'm just going to do some flowers on either corner. Yeah, I always find that it's hard, with these transfers and the inlays and even stamps sometimes, finding pieces that you can use them on. So being able to cut them apart and just use pieces and parts works out wonderfully. What do y'all think about this color? That pantry door color is gorgeous. It's got that farmhousey cottage core type going on. It's just a nice simple light green color. So I think these transfers are just going to add a little bit more to it. So I'm off centering them just a little bit. Of the transfer is on the body of the dresser, these little chest of drawers, just so slightly. And I'm going to work my way down. I'm not going to try cut transfers, are not always the easiest. I'm just going to go right down the drawers, and then I'll cut it after I get it all put on. Just working piece by piece. So I just slightly move the paper down that it came on. That way it's not sticking all at once. If it was a completely flat surface, I could go ahead and remove that. But since I'm going to be working with the bump in and the way that these drawers, when I'm sitting on its back, get pushed in, I just want to go very gingerly as I'm working my way down. And then sometimes that is just too much paper, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut that excess off, just making it easier for me to work with. If you've ever used transfers before, you know that they are really sticky. So what I'm doing over these edges here, so I can kind of bend my transfer down, is I just took that X-Acto knife razor blade and just scraped it across the piece of wood to cut it. Sandpaper would have caught it and dragged it, but I could go in gingerly that way with that razor blade and get it cut to go around that surface. Then I'm sure you all were wondering, well, oh, if you cut that off, that's going to look odd. That's not going to flow. It does. See how it just flows. Cutting that little excess off to round it around the drawers in the face of that body. Yeah, it's just absolutely gorgeous. So now what I'm doing is I'm just taking each drawer out. I'm just taking some sandpaper, making sure that the excess is taken off. To really make that transfer feel like it has just been painted on there, I'm just taking some steel wool and running it over the entire transfer. And if it takes a little bits and pieces off that I didn't completely have transfer, even better for me, because I want it to look like an older piece. I need to take a moment and use a screwdriver to poke in the holes where the hardware goes. You do need to seal your milk paint in with something. It kind of like if you wash it off, you'll start getting a chalky residue. So I'm just using the Varathane and the natural wax to seal this piece in. And just look with that natural wax. It just starts to richen up that milk paint. Just absolutely gorgeous. while I'm waxing the outside of the piece, I'm actually going to go in and wax the inside of the piece. That's going to freshen up that wood, give it a drink, especially along the glides and the slides and inside the drawers themselves. This is just going to freshen up that wood and make it a brand new piece. This is one of the reasons when I'm at a secondhand store, I can't pass up hardware. So I always have a stash to go look at, and I think these knobs are the perfect accent. They're metal, they're white, and they have a little bit of detail to them. Here's the part I was unsure of. I wanted to complete the piece. I didn't paint the bottom, as you say, I just left it because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do to these legs. I know they were orange. I know they were wooden. I knew I didn't want to paint them the same green as what the whole little chest of drawers was. But so what I'm doing is I'm just taking the Orbital sander and getting some of that really super shiny off, along with running the sander on the bottom where you always get that drippy hard edge from your paint. And we are going to get these transformed. So what I'm going to be doing to them is I'm going to use the Fusion's chocolate brown, kind of like a stain. So where I've sanded to that raw wood, it's going to take differently where there's some little of the top coat left on. It'll tone down that gold that's really gold. It'll tie in with the brown that's on that transfer, and it'll just give these legs a new look. As you see, I'm just using it as a stain, not a complete coverage. So thank you so much for watching today's video. And what did you think? I took this homemade by adding the legs piece, but it was sturdy when I bought it at the garage sale, and then you get your hands into it. And there's just bits and pieces that need to be fixed and tightened and glued and what have you before you can even get to the glue. But oh, that sweet milk, that sweet Pickins milk paint, I am absolutely loving. Loved it on the smalls, loving it on the furniture. It just has an amazing finish, and then waxing over it, distressing it, just has my heart. And what do you think? Oh, these transfers are just amazing. Just amazing, y'all. They just, the depth that they give to a piece is just, I absolutely love them. So give me a quick comment down below. Have I inspired you to look at secondhand finds in a new way? And have you tried any transfers on furnitures, and what was your favorite? So give me a quick comment down below. So thanks again for watching today's video. And as always, you're part of our YouTube family. Thank you so much. And if you're new and you're checking out our furniture flip for the first time and you liked what you saw, not only do we do furniture flips, but we do many of different types of secondhand finds. So hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know we've uploaded a new video. And we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye.